So you're going into ECG or A&E to have an ECG every month or every week for probably 6, 7, 8 months.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's snapping you out of that headspace is the doctor saying your heart's fine, Paul.
Yeah.
And I'm 28 at the time, so this is like 14 years ago.
Which is young, yeah. Which is young, right?
I'm 28. I'm fit. I remember the first time it happened, and I just was in a place called Bramhall in Cheshire. I was walking down the road, and I thought, "Wow!" I mean, I can't. Just the energy left my body in a second,
Yeah.
and it was like it was as if you pulled the plug out of the computer where it goes whoop, and it's gone.
Shit. Yeah.
And I'm stood there, and I'm like, "Fuck!" Then I'm like 28, so I'm thinking, I'm a fit guy. I go to the gym every day. This must be a heart attack, but surely I'm not having a heart attack. Long story short, I managed to get a newspaper. I literally was limping. I had no energy. I'm like, my heart's coming out my chest. I'm thinking, I'm sweating. I'm thinking, this has got to be a heart attack. But I'm feeling a bit embarrassed. I just remember feeling embarrassed. And so I was stood outside a co-op. I managed to get a newspaper. And I got a newspaper.
Yeah.
I paid him the 25p. I'm like throwing him a pound. I'm just getting the newspaper. And I've got the newspaper in front of me as I'm walking. So I'm feeling really embarrassed. I didn't want to cry out and say I'm having a heart attack, which I really felt I was. And I thought, I've got to sit down. And luckily there was a bench. So I got a newspaper and a bench. And I'd lay on the bench. And I put the newspaper above my head and I fell asleep. And I woke up. But as I'm falling asleep, I know it sounds a bit dramatic, but I actually didn't really know what was happening. I actually thought I'm a dying. I really did think I'm a dying. Is this the end? Like on a bench in the middle of Bramhall outside a co-op with a Sun newspaper, I think, over my head.
What a way to go.
And so I know, yeah, but that's genuinely what I thought. And I woke up, or whatever happened, I don't actually know. I think I maybe went to sleep, or I don't know, where did I pass out? I actually don't know that part. But then I kind of came round, and I was like, oh my God, well, I haven't died, right? So that's the first part. But that was horrendous. What on earth? How does that happen to the human body was what I was thinking. Yeah. And I managed to get to my car, and I'm feeling sluggish here now. I'm probably, if before I was, it felt like dying was 100%, I was at 99%, right? That's how it felt horrendous. I was now at 80%. I had enough to get in my car and drive home in a sort of is the word translucent or something state, but it's just as if I was in a different world. And weirdly, my mum, who works with me in Sedulo, she's been with me almost from day one. She was off. Now, the house I went back to was the house that I'd lived in for probably the first 24 years of my life till I moved out, and I was 28 at the time. And I remember walking through the door, and I went from sort of 80% to very quickly, she made me some tea and toast, and like within half an hour, I was back to normal.
Yeah, wow.
And I thought, geez, I wonder if that was just a lack of energy, a lack of carbs, a lack of poor diet, or what have I done wrong? So I didn't think too much of it. I was frightened though. I didn't think too much of it. It happened again the following week, and I thought I've got to go A&E. Anyway, long story short, that was a recycle for 6 months. The only way that I could get myself straight was to go into A&E and get on an ECG, and then they'd show me the chart, and then the doctor would speak to me for 5-10 minutes, and I would get back to myself.
Yeah.
And I thought, then you start getting scared. So for anybody out there, this was, like I say, 14 years ago. People talk about it a little bit more now. I'm quite, as you can tell, I'm quite happy to talk about it because it's the reality of life, number one. It's also the reality of a lot of sports people, a lot of musicians who can't actually get on stage, even though they've sold 10 million records. But to get on stage is a big effort for them. And to keep running a business when it's about to go bust at any day, it requires resilience, sometimes beyond what you might naturally get. So I took it upon myself. I'm never one of these pill poppers, right? So if I get a headache, I have water. I don't have a paracetamol. I've never been one of these people that do this kind of. I try to have natural remedy where I can. And so the first thing I did was I just started to research a little bit more about what this feeling might be. I've had a panic attack. I've got this anxiety. Where's it come from? And so I just started to, and I live like ever since then. The first thing is like, okay, how, do I want my body to be chemically balanced to give me the best chance of being resilient?
Yep.
Yes, I do. Okay, how do I do that? Well, I start with having enough water, and make sure that I do have treats, but I control my sugar intake.
Yep.
I control my caffeine intake. So I will have coffee up till 11 o'clock. And then after that, I'm just not having caffeine. And by the way, if I feel edgy when I wake up in the morning, I just don't have caffeine, I have a fruit tea.
Yeah.
But if I feel okay, I'll have a couple of cappuccinos in the morning, right? So I'm controlling, I'm starting to learn about myself, or I did start to learn. I'm continuing to do so. So caffeine, people come to me, staff now, Jason, and say, this has happened, something awful's happened. The dog's died, or a family member's ill, or genuinely really upsetting things. And it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and they're on the 6th coffee of the day. And they've got a Mars bar whilst they're having it. And in an hour afterwards, they're going to have a crash, right?
Caffeine's a really, really beneficial substance. Really, really beneficial when used smartly. So your caffeine in the morning.